So Braunton Burrows, as you'll all know, I'm sure, is a special area of conservation. It's a site of special scientific interest. It did used to be a national nature reserve, and it's also part of the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve and the North Devon AONB. So basically any designation it could have, it's got. But why is that? Why is it designated? So the main reasons for Braunton Burrows being designated nationally, locally, internationally, is because of the habitats that it supports. All of those different habitats support a really rich assemblage of flora. The site at the moment, so the site is split into many different units. Every single unit at the moment is assessed as being in unfavourable recovering conservation condition. So what that means is Natural England, they go out, conduct surveys and look for the presence of undesirable species, extent of bare sand, etc. So unfortunately, yes, at the moment it's in unfavourable condition. The main reason for it being in unfavourable condition is due to the extent of scrub cover. So Saunton Golf Club, we've got a really, really important role here to conserve the land that we lie upon and to do something about that. We really want to be in favourable conservation condition. What a great legacy that would be for Saunton Golf Club to have. The golf courses here, east and west, take up about 15% of the entire Braunton Burrows site, so just to give you that for a bit of context, we can make quite a big change. Since the 1960s, scrub and tree cover has vastly increased across not just the golf course, of course, but the wider burrows, across all our sand dune systems around the UK. Sand dunes, I think I said on one of the earlier slides, they're one of the most rare and declining habitats across Europe. So it's really important that we do what we can to make sure we conserve them and manage them in a way that makes sure we don't lose the rare flora that relies on these open habitats so much. But it's not all bad. So like Bob said, not all scrub's bad scrub, not all trees are bad trees. We don't want to get rid of it all. We completely get that native scrub is part of the mosaic of sand dune habitats, just not quite at the extent that it's at the moment. Therefore, we really need to do something about it. We need to manage it in a way that it remains viable for all this wildlife. So what are the proposals? So to summarise, I guess, we want to reduce scrub and tree cover across the golf course to between 5 and 10%. We want to focus largely on complete removal of species that shouldn't be here. So like we mentioned, sea buckthorn, sycamore and home oak. So what are the benefits for wildlife as a result of what we're proposing here? So there are some benefits for birds. I know there's some concerns about tree removal and scrub removal with regards to birds. The first thing to note, I guess, is that we just want to reduce scrub and trees across the site, not completely eradicate. So there still will be a suitable nesting habitat. But what's really interesting to look at is that over half of England's most threatened breeding birds are ground nesting birds. So they all need open, expansive grasslands and bare ground as well, for both foraging and for breeding. Scrub and trees support predators, so if we can remove those from these larger areas, it means we get better breeding populations of these ground nesting birds. A lot of ground nesting birds don't actually get the opportunity to breed, or at least be successful in breeding. And so actually in golf and in golf courses around the UK, we've got quite a unique responsibility or opportunity, I suppose, to actually protect and conserve a lot of these ground nesting bird species. These large expanses that we've got between golf holes where hopefully not many of you are often wandering looking for balls, could provide really, really valuable habitat for ground nesting birds. And lapwing, an interesting one. Bob. So benefits for flora. Lots of other sensitive pioneer dune plants will hopefully benefit from these works. They've certainly benefited across the wider Braunton Burrows and other sites throughout the UK.
I think we have got sort of a couple more slides of the members' concerns and interests, and maybe we'll look at those in a minute, and if there are no questions we can look at them now. But I think at this point it might be better to open up to the floor to see what kind of questions you might have. So thank you for listening to us.
Since the scrub has been removed in the centre of the courses, your premise that you're increasing biodiversity by removing scrub. We've only got maybe 3 or 4 holm oak trees on the entire 2 courses. If we were covered in holm oak, I would agree with what you say, but we've got very few trees on this course. You mentioned at the beginning of your talk that you wanted this to be a nature reserve, not just a golf course. That's exactly what I would like, and I would ask you to temper the removal of a lot of the scrub and the trees and regard it as a nature reserve, and let's have multiple habitats here rather than just a shifting dunes.
We've said that all the native scrub would remain. The scrub is important for birds. We recognise, sorry?
Some of it's coming out.
There'll be bits coming out, but more the dense stuff. You go to a lot of the links courses and you see these bits of hawthorn where the wind or the storm damage or road deer have taken the top off, and they're very dense but very low growing. That's fantastic for things like whitethroat, lesser whitethroat, reed bunting, the blackcaps. So we want to keep some of the scrub. It's not going to be a total removal of scrub. It's keeping the right scrub and maintaining the favourable balance between scrub and grasslands. To lose them, we're simply providing areas elsewhere for them to go because the holm oaks would be gone. But the tight and dense scrub, we definitely need to keep that where it exists for the birds that you've mentioned. So it is about balance at the end of the day and understanding the wider perspective.
You showed comparisons of the dune area, not the golf course, but the dunes themselves and the burrows further towards the end. And you were showing open areas of sand, which undoubtedly were the leftovers of probably when the American motorised division was here tearing up various areas. Why don't you use your proposals, which you are saying you want to remove various things, to the other 85% of the burrows and see how successful you are there, and then return to the golf course and make your proposals there, because there's undoubtedly going to be opposition from the members.
So basically it's not a trial, it's not an experiment. We've shown you a number of clubs where this is happening. This is not Saunton being selected or picked out. All around the country now it's becoming part of routine management. We said the money is not going to be, there's always a routine maintenance or routine management going to be required by the green staff. That's inbuilt and it's fine. That's what they do. But the main capital works, if you like, any larger works requiring scrub removal will be undertaken, as was said earlier, through the rural payments opportunities.
Saying that you stand as a higher authority than nature. Nature put all these various plants, trees, shrubs here.
Yes, they did.
You're now deciding that you put yourself as a higher authority than nature?
If we go and we strip all of that, all of the golf course back to open sand, which I'm not saying we do, but if we did, it would only be a matter of time before nature started to stabilise the sand that was out there. Initially you get a lot of movement of the sand, lichens would come in, mosses would come in, and then you get annuals coming in and plants would start to come in. The marram, the sand sedge would start to stabilise things again. And then the fescue would come in, red fescue. Without doing anything, it would start to come in. And over time, the amount of marram would decline, fescue will increase, and then we'll start to get other grasses like Yorkshire fog and false oak grass and cocksfoot coming in. So there's a succession. We're moving away from what we started with, and it's getting thicker and thicker and more rank. And if you were playing golf in that, you wouldn't like it. But the next stage is scrub and trees and a woodland. And this course would change out of all recognition from a top 100 linked site, real prestigious site as is, to something more akin to moving towards a parkland state.
Just first I want to thank both Sophie and Bob. Excellent talk, and I'm fully supportive of everything you've said. I think what's perhaps got a little bit lost in part of the conversation is the fact that the habitat here has been designated because it's a special area of conservation, and it's designated because of the flora. And really that's the problem we're trying to solve here. We're trying to make sure that we recover this landscape so that the flora can recover. Now, obviously there are a whole bunch of other environmental issues that people understandably feel emotional about. But actually, the key issue here It's the fact it's a special area of conservation. And I think it's really important that as members here that we support taking this into a favourable position. I'm a grandfather, I've got 3 grandchildren that live locally. I'd like to think that they all get the chance to become members here. But more importantly, I'd like them to think that we as members, most of whom I'm sure are grandparents here, were supportive of the measures that took this back to a favourable position. And it maintained it as a very, very special habitat, not just for the golf course, but for the whole region. So I thank you for all of the efforts and the thoughts and the plans and the presentation, and the fact that I know that the hierarchy of the golf course is supporting this too. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you, Esther. Is there any justification for the use of pesticides and herbicides? But the chemicals that we're using, it's a very selective chemical for scrub treatment, and that would be a last resort. So physical pulling first, as we said, the rurals payment would deal with the capital work. They are part of our toolkit, but again, they are a last resort. All we're saying now is we need to retain some level of balance to make sure that that continues in the future. The management plan for both the east and west courses hopefully provides that, and you've got loads of opportunity if you've not read them to do so. I think there has been a number of revisions from the first editions that we put out, concentrating on 1 or 2 areas more about the chemical use and the concerns that members have had. So have a look at those as well. But thank you for listening. I hope that we put some context into why we produce the management plans. Thank you.